All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving deep today, and this one's juicy. We're talking about the fallout from former President Trump's pardon of Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
Now, this name might not ring a bell for everybody,
Right.
but he was the mastermind behind Silk Road.
Oh, yeah, Silk Road. I remember that.
That was the infamous dark web marketplace where people were buying and selling, well, let's just say a lot of things they probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah, a lot of illicit goods and services,
Yeah.
drugs, weapons, you name it.
Exactly. And they were using cryptocurrency to do it, primarily Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We're talking about $183 million worth of illegal activity facilitated through this platform.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, that's why he got 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
It's a big deal.
Hmm.
And so now Trump pardons him, and it's got everybody in the crypto world scratching their heads.
Definitely. It definitely throws a wrench in the whole regulatory landscape surrounding crypto. I mean, on the one hand, the government's trying to crack down on crypto crime, but then on the other hand, they pardoned the guy who ran the biggest crypto crime ring in history.
Yeah, talk about mixed messages. And the news analysis we're looking at today really digs into the potential consequences of all this. The big question is, what does this pardon mean for the future of crypto?
Right.
One of the biggest concerns is that this could trigger a pretty intense regulatory backlash.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. Governments are already wary of cryptocurrency, and this pardon is likely to make them even more suspicious.
So what kind of changes are we talking about here? What could this actually look like for people who are using and investing in cryptocurrency?
Well, I think we could see a push for much stricter know your customer and anti-money laundering regulations, KYC and AML.
Right, the whole idea is to make it harder for people to use crypto anonymously.
Exactly. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see increased scrutiny of privacy coins, like Monero, Zcash, those kinds of cryptocurrencies that are specifically designed to make transactions really difficult to trace.
And those are especially popular on the dark web, right?
Exactly. And I think regulators could also start targeting decentralized exchanges. These are exchanges that operate without a central authority, which makes them much harder to regulate.
So basically anything that makes crypto harder to track is going to be under the microscope now.
Yeah, pretty much.
And speaking of the dark web, the analysis also dives into the possibility of this pardon emboldening those illicit markets.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. I mean, you have to figure that if the guy who built and ran Silk Road can get a pardon, then maybe other criminals will think they can get away with it too.
Right. It's like we're almost incentivizing these activities. Like, hey, if you're successful enough, you might get a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Right. And even though Silk Road was shut down years ago, dark web markets have never really gone away.
They've just gotten more sophisticated.
Exactly. And now this pardon could lead to a surge in activity on these markets and possibly even more dangerous stuff, cybercrime, weapons trafficking, fentanyl sales, all the things that are already happening on the dark web, but potentially on a much larger scale.
It's a chilling thought. But, on the flip side, could this actually be a catalyst for the crypto industry to clean up its act?
That's an interesting point. Maybe this will force legitimate crypto businesses to really distance themselves from the criminal element. We might see them implement stricter security measures, cooperate more actively with law enforcement.
So it's kind of like, yeah, this pardon is bad for the industry's reputation in the short term, but maybe it forces them to take the steps they need to take to gain mainstream acceptance in the long term?
Right, exactly. And if that happens, then maybe, just maybe, this whole thing could actually end up being a net positive for the industry.
Interesting. A silver lining, maybe. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the political dimension of all this.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, this pardon feels very political.
Oh, absolutely.
The analysis even mentions that it might be tied to campaign promises that Trump made to the crypto industry. And then you have Senator Rand Paul, a big supporter of cryptocurrency, actively lobbying for this pardon.
Right, and he's a vocal critic of government overreach, so it makes sense that he would be in favor of pardoning somebody who was convicted of, essentially creating a free market for illegal goods.
Right. But the point is that crypto is now a political football.
Definitely. And that adds a whole other layer of uncertainty to an already volatile market. Governments around the world are trying to figure out how to regulate crypto, and this pardon just throws a wrench into everything.
It muddies the waters for sure.
Yeah.
So how about the international implications? Because Silk Road wasn't just a U.S. thing, right?
Yeah.
It was global.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this pardon could definitely strain international cooperation on crypto regulation. Countries that have been hesitant to embrace cryptocurrency might see this as validation for their concerns. Like, see, we told you it was dangerous.
We were right to be skeptical.
Exactly. And so we could end up with a fragmented global crypto market where different countries have completely different regulations, which would make it really difficult for crypto businesses to operate across borders.
Yeah, a logistical nightmare. Okay, so we've talked about the potential for tighter regulations, a resurgence of dark web markets, political uncertainty, international friction, and now I want to touch on something that I think is really important, the reputational damage to the industry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about a parking ticket here. Ulbricht was convicted of serious crimes, and he received 2 life sentences plus 40 years.
That's right. And that kind of sends a message to the world that cryptocurrency is for criminals.
And that makes it much harder for the industry to gain legitimacy and attract mainstream investors.
Definitely. Financial institutions, banks, investment firms, they're already hesitant to work with crypto companies. And now this pardon just gives them another reason to be skeptical.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Tighter regulations, emboldened dark web markets, political uncertainty, international friction, damage to the industry's reputation. It's almost like this pardon has created more questions than answers.
It really has. But I think at the end of the day, the real question that we have to grapple with is what happens when a technology that was designed to operate outside of traditional systems collides with the realities of power and politics?
That's a big one.
It is. How do we balance the need for innovation with the need for security and stability? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Wow. Food for thought for sure.
Oh.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but it's clear that this pardon has the potential to really shake things up in the world of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, definitely.
So to all of you listening, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Keep digging, stay informed, and draw your own conclusions about what this all means for the future of crypto. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, stay curious.